Good afternoon. Welcome to Matters of the Heart. Earlier, we were out and about, and I know last week I posted about blended families, and I said I wanted my husband to talk a little bit about it. Um, Blended families, because I was married into a blended family, first time and second time, and he was married into a blended family. Both of us came from a two-parent home. Um, I know I'm saying a lot of ums. We're going to talk about that, and then we're going to discuss accountability. Sometimes people have an issue with accountability. So, what side of the spectrum are you on with accountability? Acknowledgement or avoidance? So, people tend to sway either way when it comes to accountability instead of like facing things head on or dealing with an issue. I find that I have in my past, like thinking, oh, it'd go away if I just do whatever, it'll go away. But sometimes it doesn't go away. And you have to acknowledge the issue, deal with the issue, face forward, regardless of what the outcome is. So, with that being said, we are going to turn it over to my husband. And this is Matters of the Heart. Like I said, it's going to be an open forum where sometimes we have conversations that we want to share outside our four walls. And this is one of those opportunities. So, here we go. Wait. We're keeping it real here. Here we go. All right. This is my husband, Stephen. He's going to give his point of view. So, let's start with blended families.
Good afternoon, or good evening, or however you look at it. A lot of things I talk about, since I am a minister, I like to incorporate some stories of the Word of God in the Bible. I'm going to talk about blended families, but I'm also going to probably mix in some of the accountability. Yeah, brain fart. Excuse me. um, if you want to be honest, and I like to be real, I like to be real and transparent. Coming from a family, my mother and father divorced when I was a kid. But another thing, I was adopted. So you talking about blended? Man, I'm more mixed up. Yeah. First of all, there's nobody that gets parenting right. I mean, nobody. If you want to be real with yourself, there's nobody get parenting right. Nobody. And if there is a parent out there that said they got it right, ask them where the book is at. Ask them what social media they own. I mean, because I don't know one parent's got it right. Because if you look back into their life and you ask the kids and ask their kids, I guarantee somebody's going to say something like, wait a minute, perfect? No. We make mistakes as parents. Because you got to remember, we were raised by parents. And they were raised by people. Parents, they were raised by people. Ain't none of us are perfect. Remember, there was only one person that was perfect that ever stepped on this planet. And it was Jesus Christ. So we're going to get it wrong sometimes. We're going to miss the mark.
I agree.
We're going to say and do things because what we used to be, how we used to raise. Some of it was great. Some of it was real. Some of it was true. But some of it, you're going off your own flesh. You're going off how you feel, of emotions, of I'm not trying to get hurt no more, or this is how it's going to be, And some of it's right, but some of it's wrong. So you got to take accountability for what you say and do. Are you going to get it always right? No, you're not. But that is parenting.
So, when you're talking about accountability, I guess it kind of has like a twofold purpose, when you're talking about accountability as well as the blended family. I know you and I both have, in our work life, experienced situations where not necessarily us, but we've seen other people try to avoid accountability instead of acknowledging things. I've seen where in the job I was in prior, in leadership and management, whereas I gave people an opportunity, say there were some disciplinary actions to be taken place, and they had a accountability. Were they going to acknowledge what they did wrong or say what they did wrong, or were they going to lie about it? Basically avoid it. And 9 times out of 10, I would have that one that would try to avoid it and lie, even though we already knew the truth. That was an opportunity to let integrity come into play. And I guess when you want to talk about accountability, it has a lot to do with integrity of an individual. So unfortunately, you have that personality out there that will say, oh no, I didn't do that. Oh, this was this way. Or they try to sway the situation to look it's going to be in their favor. But we already knew, like I said, the truth. So we are sitting there and giving you an opportunity to be honest. Or, in this case, acknowledge the fact that you had an error. Or they had an error. And they chose a different path. Whereas the outcome could have been maybe a suspension, maybe a written warning or verbal. But because we knew you didn't have integrity because you lied in our faces, it was termination, which was unfortunate. You know, no one deserves or wants to be let go. People have life, people have families, but that's the consequences of not showing accountability. So that's what I can say that I've experienced, even like in family settings. Like I said in the part 1 of Blended Family, we had to, my husband says it best sometimes. A lot of times when you have a situation and you want to see who's at fault, you can turn around and see yourself in that you're a player in the game, as far as having some accountability. So a lot of times you can lay it, like his way of saying it is, you can lay it at your feet and say that you have some part in it.
That you has happened in your life, good or bad, you can always bring it back. Most of the time, you can bring it back and place it at your feet. You've done something when you were younger. You've done something that actually started the chain reaction. Most of the time, that you could say, dang, if I didn't do that, maybe if I didn't say that. And especially when it comes to your kids, I mean, like I said before, none of us is perfect. We're going to make mistakes. There's no book on perfect parenting. I ain't never seen a book like that.
Yep.
But let's say this. Even if, just for giggles.
Grins and giggles?
Grins and giggles. Even if, say you were a perfect parent. We're not, but say we were. I guarantee there's always going to be one child that want to do it their way.
Absolutely.
You could teach them the right way, the biblical way. You could teach them the moral way. You could teach them the right way. Say yes, ma'am, yes, sir. You can teach them to open doors. You can teach them to help the elderly. You can teach them to help in this and this and that. But I guarantee it's always going to be one that you're going to say, what did I do wrong? You didn't do nothing wrong. Because at a certain age, even if they're not 18, there's accountability. At a certain age, they know. And the Bible says when you know to do right and you don't, come on.
Yep.
At a certain age, they know what to do. Unless somebody was brought up in a hole, in a deep hole, and they just had food push, pulled, or whatever, all the way down to them. They don't see no human. And even to that, we were all created in God's image. God gives us a spirit that's right here. God will tell you what's right and wrong. It's your choice whether to say yes or no.
True.
So, you know what's right and wrong. You really do. Ain't nobody out here ever been brought up in a hole. Ain't nobody ever that was born in a hole and brought up in a hole. There's nowhere. If they are, sorry. I really am. That's horrible. But most likely, no. You know right and wrong. Now, as children, as parents, like I said, we have accountability. And blended families, man, that's when it gets rough.
That's a hard one. And I think in our last episode we were talking about, and I kind of want to tie things together when I say there's a part 1, there's a part 2. And we kind of want to go into a progression, and we'll keep bringing things to you as we build, because this is very in an organic state. It will get better as time progresses. Don't come for us. We're in the.
Oh, you can come.
You ain't gonna like it.
Cause
we're holy.
I said, let me say this. I love everybody.
Yes, yes.
But I don't like everybody.
Right,
and
right.
I am, and if you know me,
right.
I am crazy. I will say some stuff.
He's a lot of fun.
You be like, what?
He's a lot of fun.
Yeah,
he's a lot of fun.
Yeah, I said.
We're like daylight and dark.
Because you got to remember, you're not perfect either.
No, nobody's perfect.
And let's say this: we're not specialists.
No, we're just giving our opinion. This is just our opinion.
Doctors, we're not.
No,
we're not
let's get that out there.
We just.
I am not giving any legal advice or professional advice.
We can't.
We're sharing our life. We're
just
sharing our
giving you
truth.
a perspective of what we went through.
Absolutely.
And if it helps somebody,
bravo.
Thank you, God.
Yes,
Thank you, Jesus.
yes.
If it don't, my uncle had
a
saying that he said to me when I was a kid, and I took it to me until now. He said, whatever you hear or you see in life, whatever happens to you, he said, if you can use it, apply it to your life.
Absolutely.
If you can't, let it roll off your back like a duck. That means if you can use it, use it. Oh, that's great. Yeah, but if you can't use it and it don't mean nothing, then don't sweat it. Don't sweat the small stuff.
Exactly.
It's just an opinion.
Yeah.
But if it works for you, then thank God.
Because
it didn't come from us in the first place, because God allowed us to survive what we've been through to teach and to show people certain situations that it might help.
As we grow, we'll become more vulnerable and share more with you. And we say, don't come for us, because we are in a raw state right now, and this is like walking in faith. We decide to do something that God had put on our hearts to do, and in hopes that it would reach someone. And reach one, you teach one, is the old saying. And just to help you, we always said to get things outside of our four walls, and to share those things. And I know he and I both, we have a whole big old backstory that we'll share one day when we're in a good place, don't get me wrong. But when we as we mature on this channel, we're going to share some things with you of how it all started, how we met, how we ended up here. So like I said, blended families. And my husband, he said, of course, he was adopted. And he was adopted into a great family, I would say. Well known in our community where we came from. And we both experienced some I would say some tragedies, some ups, some downs. Everybody has their opinion of what went on if they were a participant in it. But we're just sharing our stories. And as far as blended family, and like I was saying, in our last episode, it's like, are you beautifully blended? When the two became one, was the work really done? And in my perspective, the work is never done. It's always going to be a stretch sometimes. Sometimes it's going to be some heartache. Some heartstrings are going to get pulled. Some disagreements are going to be had. So sometimes blended families can be beautiful. Sometimes they can be a godsend when you don't have that, So that's where I'll let my husband take over again.
A blended family is like us.
True.
I use this analogy all the time. You ever seen a building that's under construction? Okay, better yet, that, but also, you ever been on a highway and they're under construction and you like, are they ever going to be done?
Right.
Well, that's us. That's a blended family. It's always under construction. God, if you allow him, he's going to work on you. He's going to work on you. You won't be perfected because because your flesh is always in the way. Mm-hmm. Your flesh always fights your spirit. Now, I believe we'll be perfected when we get to heaven. I do. Hopefully we go to heaven. But I believe that's when we'll be perfected. But as long as we're on this earth, we're fighting our flesh all the time. Do I want to do that? Do I want to do that? It looks good. It sounds good. It feels good. But wait a minute. Is it good? So we fight our flesh all day long. We know what to do is right, but do we really do it? Sometimes we do. To be real, not everybody out here is going to do the right thing. Your desires, I'm talking to church folks, your desires ain't always towards God. You can lie to me, you can lie to somebody else, but you can't lie to God.
Right, he sees all.
Everybody has messed up desires sometimes. And that's real. But it's a choice. It's a choice. It's a choice whether you say, I'm going to do it, or, no, I ain't going to do that. I look at stuff all the time. And I'm like, is it worth it? Is it going to be good for me and my family? Or is it going to tear me and my family apart? Is it going to be good for me and my finances? Or is it going to break me? Is it going to be good for me and my business? Or is it going to tear it down? Or it's not even going to get started?
Right.
You got to make decisions. And in a blended family, same thing applies.
Okay, let me ask you this. I know where you married into a family and there's children already there, and I think we both had that in our former marriages. But do you find that, and I'm just posing a question, and we'll open comments on this this particular episode. I know I didn't open comments on the last one, but I think we'll open up comments on this one. I find that when you have a blended family, and there's, whether the children are younger or if they're preteens, I believe, and then you have the teenagers and adults. I think the ones that you could probably deal with the best are the preteens and possibly adults. Here's the reason why I say this, or the younger ones, the toddlers. I think you can teach the little ones. At a certain age, the children don't understand why mom and dad are no longer together and this new person's involved. And so then there may be a struggle, whereas the kids feel like maybe they're lost in the shuffle. Then when you have the teenagers, you have, well, I've spent all these years with my parent, you can't tell me anything. So I think it's a challenge for both parent and children, whether they be adults or young or not. And whereas when the correction comes in, I think the person that's married into the family tends to kind of stand back or stands off, because you have not every non-custodial or co-parent is pleasant. If you have the best partnership when co-parenting, I said this before, it has to be in the best interest of the children, regardless of what your issues are. That has to be dealt with at another time, dealt with without the children present. We have to be bigger than our ego. Not our ego bigger than us. Because at that point, that ego will get in the way and hinder a productive environment for that child. And then there's strife, and there's complaining and bickering and confusion, and then you're pulling something away, or you're stopping this, and it turns into this big old mumbo jumbo that doesn't have to be there. And like I said previously, we have to keep the interest of the children. We have to keep it, cohesive for the kids' sake. But the children also have to be respectful, be mindful that this person is in your life now and they're here to support you as well as your parents, your biological parents. So I think sometimes, depending on the age of the kids, it's harder for someone marrying into it and they haven't really, you go through that introduction stage, and, you don't want people around your kids that's not going to be a permanent fixture because they're precious. Not judge anybody that's done that, but unless somebody was going to be fixed in my life, I didn't let them come around my kids. Because I was married before. But so my point is to say, do you think, Steve, that it's a little harder? Because I know you
Twice.
You've done it twice.
Twice.
So that's why I said I think you could probably speak on it because you've done this twice. I've done it twice, but in your case, your kids were teens and you went into adult life.
My kids were 2.
Yeah. I'm saying,
Yeah.
with mine, from my point of view, your children were No, I'm talking about between you and us.
Oh
You and
yeah,
I.
yeah, yeah.
Okay, I know where I'm going there. Let me get there. So it was a little bit because there's like a little bit of a disconnect because they're with their mother, um, and so we didn't have a lot of interaction.
That helps.
That's neither here or there. Um, and then like with my baby, my oldest, I had the interaction, so it was an easy transition because she's been with me her entire life, and I spoke about that in my previous episode. So I just want to know, how is it for you having done this twice with small children going into teenage years, adolescence, and adulthood?
Um,
Now you still got two teens here though.
Now I believe when they're toddlers, when they're real small, and you come in like 1 or 2 years old, they really don't understand, especially if the parent, their biological parent, is not there.
Right.
I think it's maybe easier, but it's only for the the reaction between you and them. They can love you because they feel at that time that maybe you are the parent.
Right.
But it also depends on the biological parent and how they are towards you and that child. Now, you can have a parent toward the biological parent towards that child that will say, "Hey, treat you like the father, and let the man, if he's a good man or a good woman, you first got to be a good man and good woman, because not every woman going to let most good women, most mothers will not let a man just come in and take over when that man is not right. I say this. I just seen a message from T.D. Jakes. I love T.D. Jakes. He's a good minister to me. And he said something in there, and I didn't think about it. It was when he spoke about Abraham and Sarai. And when Sarah wanted to get rid of Hagar, I'm not going to go into it. You just got to read it. If you're in the Bible, you know the story. She wanted to get rid of her and Ishmael. That was a hard thing for Abraham, and she had no problem with it. She wanted to get rid of him. But he said something that made sense. He basically said Sarah didn't have no investment in that child. He said that, but he also said something funny, that they ain't had no skin in the game. I thought that was pretty smooth. I like that. But if you don't have an investment in the child of the woman or the man that you're with, then you really don't care. But to have an investment, see, I look at it like this. My ex-wife and my wife now, when I first got with them, and I learned to love them at the time, my wife now, my ex-wife back then, I loved them, so I said, I'm going to accept everything that came with them. Okay, so that means I love them, I love their child. And then I said that, but then you start getting around their child, raising their children, and you really start loving that child. But you got to have an investment. So I invested my time. Not only just my money, I invested my time. I treated those kids, all my kids, like they were mine. Mm-hmm. Now, me personally, I don't believe in step. I really don't believe in step. No. You're mine. Especially if you're 2 years old, I raised you since all my kids. I at least, if they wasn't born to me, 2 years old was the when I came in. And
with Wesley.
Well, that's the oldest.
Yeah,
2 years old.
Boy was 1.
Wesley was 1. Yana was 2. My oldest son, Brandon, was 2. But I loved him. I loved him just like I loved Dominic, my biological. And my other daughter, she came in late when I met my wife, when I got back with my wife now. Her daughter, I loved her too, because I loved her. So I invested my time in all of them because I had a good woman, I had a best friend. I loved her, I still love her, and I invested my time in it. So I can't just get mad, throw them away. No, you're going to get mad at your kids. Trust me, if you have any kids, old enough, you're gonna be mad at it. You can admit it if you don't want to. You can admit it if you don't want to. But you know they done did something, said something. You like ungrateful, unruly pieces of crap.
When you said that,
said it. You get mad.
Oh my
like,
gosh.
wait, hold. And then all parents do this. I don't care how old and young you are. All parents do this. I just know daggone well. I done did all this stuff. You gonna do this to me like this?
A monkey.
You get angry, but.
I was going to say something real funny. I was like, we all have been to the point we almost got Kirk Franklin mad.
Yeah, right.
No shade to Kirk.
But the thing is, if you get mad at your so-called the kids not biologically no more yours, and you want to throw them away, I look at it like this: would you throw your own kid away? No. You're gonna love. You're gonna deal with it. You're gonna discipline them. You're gonna do whatever it takes to get them back on track. Because see, in my perspective, I know how the world is.
I know that sounds easy, but think about it.
Hard.
What if the child is not willing to listen? What if the child is rebellious? What if the child is disrespectful?
It's hard.
I mean, and you're trying your hardest.
It's hard.
And to do your due diligence in treating this child like you do your other children, or just even if you don't have other kids, you're trying to give this child the best part of you, but yet they constantly fight you. That gets hard.
It does get
hard.
And
it gets weary. It makes the Bible says don't be weary in well doing, but it's like our flesh and just being a human, just being a human, knowing that you're exerting this love, this trying to comfort them and be there for them, be all that you can be, and they refuse to accept it. That's hard.
You have to remember now, because this is what I do.
I mean, take the rose-colored glasses off. Let's keep it real. That happens.
Hold on, it does. But you got to remember. I was a child once.
Yeah, we all were.
I had feelings. I had one pulling me this way and one pulling me that way. And you got to remember, them childs have feelings. And nowadays, see, back then when I was younger, I didn't have everything that they got nowadays.
We couldn't express ourselves.
To pull me this way and pull me that way. We couldn't do that.
We couldn't express ourselves.
We could not back talk. We could not. If we were mad, we better not show it. But nowadays, these kids nowadays, the world is teaching them, you have every right to get mad. You can even cuss your family.
I would say go that far. You have the right to have a feeling.
Yeah, you have right
to feel.
Yeah, and they do have a right to feel. But your opinions, I'm like, you have a right to opinion, but you don't do it disrespectfully.
Right.
And that's the thing.
Right.
This generation believe they can say anything, however they want to be respected.
Not all.
Well, not all, but a lot of them that I've seen, they want to give their opinion. They want to respect a lot of them, but they don't want to give you.
I would just say a lot of people. That's not necessarily. I can see any generation be disrespectful.
Yeah, it can, but
so I just don't want to. I don't want to be.
I'm not saying it's all
righteous
generation
and label people.
I'm not doing that. But I see it more now than I've ever seen it. Now there were some ones back in the day, but not as prevalent as it is today.
Okay, you guys, as you can see, we don't always agree, but sometimes we agree to disagree. I said when we have these conversations, we keep it real. So it's like we want to show you that, he is like way better than I'll ever be on some things, because it's like, I got the super cutoff on. And where he's like, well, you need to, and he's right. Then I have to get convicted and I have to show grace, So you're seeing us right now in our real element. We are not going to always agree, because it's like he'll challenge me on some things and I'll challenge him on some things. And it's not saying either one of us is right or wrong, or we're saying that, all this generation is horrible, all that generation is right. That's not what we're saying or what he's trying to say.
No.
But we find that
there's no really right or wrong.
That there's a lot of more freedoms that maybe we didn't see as we were coming up. And a lot of kids and people have had to make it on their own. Therefore, a lot of people can't say too much to them. Yes, they have life encounters that will make them kind of humble down or hunker down or whatever the case may be. But you've had a lot of young adults that have made their own way and have been successful. Made their own way because somebody wasn't there to assist them or guide them. And so it's hard to infiltrate those walls, it's hard to get into that being. It's hard to continue and get into all that, so that's what he's saying. That's what he's saying. I like to hear his point of view on a lot of stuff because he gives you the quiet grace, that I don't necessarily have the finesse sometimes, and he has a way with it where I don't, because I'm like cut and dry. I'm like black and white, no shade of gray. He's all black, white, and gray. So it's like,
Depends on the situation.
yeah, it depends on what it is, and he's stubborn, but we wanted to share with you, and so like you're saying with blendedness. So like I was saying, how was it for you, from your perspective, coming in when both situations you had your own biological child, you came into where the child was younger. In both instances, you did where the kids were younger. Was it easy, or did you find a point in life where you saw there was a change?
It was funny. It was funny. It was kind of okay. My biological son, when he was young, my biological son stuck to me like glue. He always wanted me, daddy, daddy. I would sit, watch a game or a movie. He would sit in the crick of my arm right here, and I loved it. I don't know how it is for mothers, but for a father,
it never stops for mothers.
Yeah, and for a father, that's the best thing that I ever felt.
Dads are able to release their children.
Yeah.
Some moms, I'm one of them. It's hard for me to release my kids.
Yeah. We love them. Oh, that was the best thing. When I got with Jan and Wesley, or the kids I'm with now, I didn't really get that. The girl, oh man, she took
She's a daddy girl.
She's a daddy's girl. I love that. At the time, I didn't know the other daughter at the time.
The oldest.
The
on
oldest.
my side.
But the youngest took to me like glue. I loved it. I never had a daughter in my life. And the thing is, at that time, God knew how I was towards girls. So I was like, that's my baby, The boy, he was cool. It was good, but it wasn't like, and it was my perception of my biological. So, but me and him got along pretty good. It was funny. And when he found out, I thought it was funny. When he found out.
He was so young.
He was young. And he started calling me dad and all that, Daddy Steve and then dad, and I loved it. And I loved him to death. And then when he found out I wasn't his biological father.
I think that's what he really got.
He really got
we
mad.
laugh now about it, but that little baby was angry.
Oh my God. I was like, now I wasn't perfect as a father. And I used to say I don't believe in apologizing to kids. But I changed my mind.
Don't come for him, y'all.
Depending on the situation, yes.
Right.
If you're wrong, you tip your hat.
Right.
Yeah, I was wrong. I have apologized to my kids. I think I've apologized to all of my children at one time, one of them. If I did wrong, I apologize. But I do not apologize for being a father, a good father.
That's it.
Because I do the best I can.
That part.
To what God has given me. Now.
Okay, so when you say that, that's accountability.
That's accountability.
That's acknowledging. Guys, this is kind of like tied in together. That's accountability, and it's tied in to what he's saying. Like I knew there was some things maybe I didn't do quite right, and I had to address it. Maybe there's some things that happened that you didn't quite understand, and I apologize that I didn't make it clear to you. And that takes some kahunas to acknowledge. Because a lot of us, I'm here to tell you, I will ride it out if I feel like I'm right. And then sometimes pride gets in my way. And I know I'm wrong as two left shoes. And I have to come back and I'm like, yeah. And so he laughs at me whenever I come back and apologize. Because that's something I just rarely did. Man, whatever. And I do it now because it's like, would you want to go on like that with someone?
Man.
Knowing that you were wrong? And then... even as a parent, because we've had those conversations with our kids where we let them respectfully express themselves, and we found out a lot about us in doing so. Yes. I found out a lot about there was some defaults, and some faults. Defaults that they would fall into, and some faults were because I gave my attention to things that I thought were building my home. In reality, it was tearing us apart. So I had to put a lot into perspective. So I understand where he's coming from, where he goes, you don't apologize for being a good parent. And that's correct. That.
Now,
but, you know.
Now for correction
Right.
for a child. I had a friend of mine on Facebook, I'm not going to name no names, that said something about apologizing to kids. Should you apologize to kids, and should you explain? Now, I'll give you an example. Now, if a child does something wrong, in the Bible, I believe the Word of God.
Mm-hmm.
In the Bible, if you don't discipline your kids, it says you don't love them. And I understand that, because the thing of it is, now hold on before you say it, because some of y'all don't believe in discipline. That's fine. But if you don't discipline...
Discipline's not always physical, though.
No, it's not always physical. And we know there's some kids you ain't got to spank physical. You don't. There's some kids you got to, because they don't get it. They do. And I've just seen both sides. Sometimes you got to spank them. And I ain't talking about beat them. There is a difference between a spanking and a beating. It's an abuse. That's a difference.
Yeah.
Popping them on the legs or on the butt is not beating. Come on, y'all. Some of y'all got to understand this. Now, but it just turns them, it redirects them. Some of them you can just talk to and they cry. I understand.
I'm going to tell you, when we were coming up, my dad and my mom give us a look, and it would just make us swallow our entire face.
Shoot, I got my tail whooped, because I'm gonna tell you, I kept going back in. I was stubborn.
Yeah.
But my thing is this: I will, if it happens. This is how I discipline. If it happens the first time, I talk to him. Now you know that was wrong. Then I tell him what was wrong.
Why? Yeah.
And why it was wrong.
Help them understand.
And if I may even give them another chance to talk, but that third time, I'm swatting the butt. Some things you get a swat. Because if that child does something that's dangerous, that's going to hurt them or kill them or somebody else, hey, out of fear, the parent will be like, oh no, pop, you better not do that again. Now, it's the situation. Now, I will explain that one, but I'm going to tell you one time, if I tell you to go over here and clean this up and you done made the mess, this is your mess, and you tell me you ain't going to do it, I cannot stand a disrespectful child. I really can't. Because I wasn't disrespectful to my parents, unless I didn't do it in front of their face.
Do you think non-biological kids are more disrespectful?
No.
Okay. I just want to ask, because we're stay on the subject.
That can go either way.
Yeah.
It depends on the child.
Yeah.
I've seen some biological kids way worse than the non-biological kids, but I've seen some non-biological kids way worse than the biological kids. It depends on the child. I just can't stand a disrespectful child. Now, I will tell them once. I'll say it once or even twice. But if you sitting around me doing some bogus stuff, now some of the stuff, I ain't going to just jump off the fly, because some of the stuff is funny. Because I got to look at it like
Kids
this.
don't know.
I used to do the same stuff. That's what killed me. I'm like, all right. It ain't that serious, but you know you was wrong for doing it. But then again, you got to think of it like this. I'm a jokester. Yes. I like to have fun. So I can't get mad when my son here starts joking and saying something crazy. Because I'm like, you get like...
What the funny thing
I'm
about
like,
it is, you get mad sometimes, and I look at you, I'm like, well, who got him like that?
He gets it off. I get mad, but
he's like, is he really talking to me like that?
I'm like, no, daggone, we ain't talking to me like that.
I was like,
but I had to remember,
that's your fault.
I was like that. I was like that as a kid. But to see, I never expressed that to my parents like that. It was very rarely, I got my tail whooped, got shoot, I got knocked out.
Our generation was different.
But, nowadays, these kids would come right out the bat, and you're like, wait, hold on. You don't pay nothing. You do 2 minutes of nothing. But that's just how it is. Because in the Bible it says they'll be wiser. They're wise. These kids are wise. They're smart, but they'll be weaker. A lot of these kids can't handle nothing. Then you tell them to walk down the block. You walk down the block. Oh my God. They get so mad. I'm too tired, dude.
I think that's but accountability.
Yeah, it is. Accountability.
We're contributors to that.
Yeah, we are.
If you feel like kids, what did you do to make them feel they didn't have to do anything?
You're right. Be like, y'all can't do
nothing.
nothing.
The kid now.
You working hard. They look at you like, I don't want to work that hard. Why? You see me do it every day. They don't want to do it. Not all kids are like this, but you got some of them. I ain't working that hard. No. And I love it when they say, I want my own business. I'm going to have my own business. But I tell them, listen, do you know what it takes to get your own business?
Right.
It's not easy. You got to come up with the capital. Your parents may not have that kind of capital. You got to know what it takes to get the capital, or what to get to do it to get that business open. And it's up to us to help them. But the thing is, if the parents don't know, who's going to teach them?
Right.
So put pride aside if you don't know, and find somebody of your friends or somebody that loves you that knows about this, and ask them, could they teach your parents? Put pride aside, because you do want your kids to succeed, don't you?
I think like you're saying, have someone teach them, but even as adults, and I'm not trying to be combative or contrary with him, you guys. You're like, why isn't she on camera? Because I was on camera on the last episode. So I think even as an adult, I think we seek advice, whether it be from your pastor or counseling, or friends or family or some neutral party. Sometimes we share life stories or life happenings or situations we're in or encounters we've had to get advice. So I think just as equal as kids can get insight, advice, and mentoring, adults can as well.
I'll be the first one to tell you. If you come and ask me something I don't know about it, I'll tell you. I don't know. But let's go and search.
Yeah,
let's go on
find
Google.
out.
Google, man, Google will show you everything. You can go to a friend that knows.
Yeah,
Well,
somebody that's experienced it.
I got people that I know that is close to me and my wife that have certain things that we don't know about. And we can go ask them, or we can Google it, or we can social media. Everybody knows something.
There's so many. There's a
Outlets.
plethora. There's a wealth of resources.
That's right.
There's books. You can educate yourself. You can see my bookshelf here, and it's tons of books. You can enlighten yourself. You can be a self-taught, or you can go back to school.
Yeah.
Whatever the situation that it's a life is a continuous learning process.
It sure is.
And that's the best way to see it. It doesn't stop because you're old. It doesn't stop because you're seasoned. It doesn't stop because you're degreed. Life is a continuous process. Right. And you in a business world, we could call it continuous improvement programs or a process improvement. And that is, you can apply that to life. There's always ways you can change or do things in your home, with your families, even with yourself. So it's a continuous improvement. I think we've been all over the place on this one. We've talked about accountability, acknowledge. Do not ignore.
You do.
It does not go away.
You do have to acknowledge what you did. It doesn't
go away.
That's the thing about fixing things. The first thing, if you know you're wrong, the first thing is acknowledgement.
Right.
You have to acknowledge I was wrong. You have to acknowledge what you did wrong.
What did you do?
And then you have to say.
Sorry, guys, I'm trying to change this.
And then you gotta say I was wrong, but let's go fix it.
Let's talk about
together.
it. Yeah, let's do this together.
That's not just the children. That's your spouse. That's a friendship. That's anything. That is part of accountability.
What's it called? Communication.
It's called communication.
It's communication.
So you got to do this.
Talk about it.
I mean, are you and your kids ever going to agree on everything?
No.
No. Whoever tells you yes, run. Because everybody's not going to agree. Your kids not going to agree. But you got to show them love. Because even though they're mad at you, even though they don't believe in what you say.
Even if they're not acting right, y'all.
Acting right. I guarantee if they get in some trouble or they don't understand something, if you show them love, if you just let them know you're there, they'll come back to you. Dad, Mom, and they won't. They may not even apologize, but I want to know whatever, blah blah whatever, or they'll say,
"You're right."
You're right, and that's the best thing I could ever hear. They hug, they say we love you. It's always something. Let me tell you something. I'm just gonna be a transparent. I hated my father for a long time when I was a kid. I hated him because he was so mean, and a lot of stuff I felt he did was wrong. But when I got older, I came back and I apologized and I said thank you. Because hadn't it been that you did what you did, I wouldn't be as strong as I am today. It wasn't just my mother. It was also my father. I attribute my grandmother. I told all of them, thank you. All them butt whoopings I got, I deserved them. Back then I might not have thought about it, but most of them, I deserved them. Because it helped, gave me and the direction and the teaching and it made me the man that I am today. I wouldn't even know about God if it wasn't for my family.
Right.
Wouldn't have known.
True.
I gotta go, y'all. I gotta get up early in the morning and go to work.
We thank you
It's
guys.
a sad, sad truth.
That's a sad truth. But we thank you guys for joining us and obliging us to share. I know we're like popcorn, we're all over the place, but to share with you from our perspective. As a disclosure, we are not professionals. We're not your counselor.
Nope.
We're not your legal advice.
Nope.
We're not your financial advisor. We're just sharing from our perspective.
Yeah.
And there'll be more. So our next episode, we're going to talk about self-care. The ugly face. So anyway, we're just going to try to keep along the lines of things that we're sharing, whether it be on, look for us on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and soon enough will be Spotify. Is that everything? Oh, and Twitter. I'm sorry, and Twitter. So we'll put the links in, and we're just thanking you guys for obliging us, and like and subscribe, of course, and share. Until next time, this is Matters of the Heart. Peace.
Peace.